Hello guys, my name is Kaimana and today I'm going to be giving you a book review on who was Louis Armstrong. So some people call him Louis Armstrong, but in this video I'm going to be calling him Louis Armstrong because that was a bigger margin of what people called him, but it's fine if you just want to say Louis Armstrong. So he was born on August 4th, 1901, and he was a poor boy from New Orleans who stopped school after 5th grade. So maybe not a lot of you know this, but he actually went for a home to boys because him and his friends they're kind of actually popular in New Orleans, and they actually played a little music. They actually sung. People would give them money in their hats on the corner of like a really busy street. So they sung, but after for New Year's they wanted to make a lot of noise, a lot of sound. So Louis Armstrong's friends brought like fake guns, but Louis actually brought a real gun and started firing in the air. So after that, people heard the sounds and thought it was like an active shooter in the middle of the road for like New Year's, but it was actually Louis Armstrong. So he got sent to a home for boys, even though he was still pretty little. He didn't know, and like I put him in there for a few days, but then leave him out because he needed to learn his lesson, because guns, like shooting in the air, is actually pretty dangerous. Like if you shoot it in the air like this high, you might not be able to see it in the camera, like this high, and then so much speed it could be going at 200 miles per hour. If you don't know, like that could be enough to split a human's brain in half. So yeah, it's pretty dangerous. So I could understand why he got sent to a home for boys. So once he got there, he didn't really have any friends. But since Louis Armstrong was poor at that time, the only money he had was to buy a trumpet or a cornet, I believe. I think it's in the beginning. Cornet. He bought himself a cornet, and I'm going to try to find them singing on the corner of the street. I can't find it. It's probably in the beginning. Oh, these are Louis and his friends. Oh, these are Louis and his friends singing, and as you can see, maybe it's a little hard to see, but he's actually holding a gun in this picture. So that's a boy shouldn't be holding a gun. If I'd say it's okay if you're over 20, but still a little boy shouldn't be holding a gun. So he begins his music career by joining the music club for the Home for Boys, and I think every year they had a parade. And after a few years, I think 1 or 2 years, he got the leader of the whole band because he practiced his cornet, and he was just a really popular music guy. So he really liked music. Louis Armstrong did. So he lived a hard life. He didn't have a lot of money, and he also sold newspapers on corners, including singing. So let me try to find it again. But yeah, racism was actually still pretty popular at that time, even though 60 years before they canceled it. So this man actually got angry at his Louis Armstrong's friends for going into their pool, but they actually just lost something. And the white man actually pulled out a gun that was loaded and pointed it at one of the boys. And my dad says if you're ever gonna point a gun at somebody, it's like you're their enemy and you're 100% gonna shoot them. So thankfully that guy didn't shoot. So Louis joined the band and became the leader. 1916, a few years before that, he got out the Home for Boys, and all of his family and friends were actually really happy. So in 1916, he met Joe Oliver, and June 19th, 1914, he left the Home for Boys. That's the exact date. 1924, he grows up, starts his music. He's in his music career. He likes to practice, and he's making songs. 1924, he marries Lillian, or however you pronounce it. And Well, he joined a band, and well, a lot of bands really wanted him because he was a really talented young boy. So he used to play at bars. As you can see, he's playing the cornet right there. Kind of, maybe my finger's not long enough. But he also joined some other bands. He was a singer, songwriter, composer, cornet player, trumpet player, and an actor who wrote books about his life, which is an autobiography. He actually was in a lot of films, especially playing music ones. He could play the cornet, he could play the trumpet, and he had just played a lot of brass, kind of metal instruments, not like violins, guitars, cellos, a woodwind section, or just a lot of stuff like that. Not even, well, I'm a piano player, I'm a kind of guitar player, I just got into it. But he didn't do that, so 1925 he moves back to Chicago. Sadly, in 1927 his mom dies. So in 1931 he moves back to New Orleans and starts practicing more songs, and there wasn't a lot to talk about in this book. Like, if you could, I just don't know how they make these books long. Like, December 4th, 1941, the United States entered World War II, but that's not about Louis Armstrong's life. Louis Armstrong's career was moving along in December 25th. You already know that. So it's kind of a lot of stuff, like my aunt, I couldn't hardly wait to get to my Aunt Mayan's place to tell her the good news. By this time, Louis was married to a woman named Daisy Parker. That's actually some news, but a man named that led to a steady job at a honky-tonk owned by a man named Ponce. That's kind of associated with his life. Finally, he gave the boy a cornet. Kind of not associated. The Colored Waifs Home for boys was only about 5 miles from Louis' home. It's like, as you can tell, it's just a lot of stuff about his life and a lot of stuff not about his life. Like, the Rockwell got Louis a job for performing in a show called Hot Chocolates in Harlem, which they already mentioned that. He plays a lot of music, and in 1933 he marries Alpha Smith. It's a huge gap, but in 1943 he goes to Corona, New York, not the one in California, in New York. So in 1944 he appears on the Time magazine, and I saw it right here. 1949 Time magazine featured a photograph of Louis Armstrong on the cover of its February 21st issue. It pictured him as the king of jazz wearing a hand-drawn crown of cornets, his first instrument. He was also crowned king of the Mardi Gras in his hometown of New Orleans. The mayor gave him keys to the city. He welcomed as a local hero. During the 1950s, Louis Armstrong kept performing with all his stars, even though rock and roll became the new music craze. People still wanted to listen to Armstrong. So that's a lot about what this book talked about. In 1964, he created Hello Dolly, and it becomes the most popular song. In 1916, he tours in Africa. In 1968, he creates the song What a Wonderful World, and sadly in 1971, this Louis Armstrong's life dies. So I'm going to read the timelines to you. 1901, he's born in New Orleans, Louisiana. But if I read the actual thing, it'd take a long time, so I'm just shortening it up for you guys. 1903, his Louis' sister is born, Beatrice. 1913, sent to Colored Waifs Home for boys. 1914, he begins his musical career. 1916, he meets Joe Oliver. 1918, he replaces Oliver in Kid Ory's band and marries Daisy Parker. 1919, works on riverboats for Fate Marble, or how we pronounce it. 1920, goes to Chicago to play with Joe Oliver. 1923, he makes his first records. 1924, marries Lillian. 1925, returns to Chicago. 1927, Louis' mother dies. 1929, he stars in Hot Chocolates on Broadway. 1931, he returns to New Orleans to play. 1935, Joe Glasser becomes Louis' manager. 1936, he publishes Swing That Music, his first autobiography. 1938, he marries Alpha Smith. 1942, marries Lucy Watson. 1943, he moves to Corona. 1949, he appears on Time magazine. 1954, publishes Satchmo, My Life in New Orleans, second autobiography. 1960, he tours Africa. 1964, Hello Dolly becomes the #1 song. 1968, What a Wonderful World, he becomes a hit all over the world. In 1971, Louis Armstrong on July 6th dies. So that's the story of who is Louis Armstrong. I put this in the 8 on the rating. It was pretty good, but there's some stuff that doesn't need to be included. So I hope you like my book review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and I'll see you soon.